When I looked up sleeping dogs, the thing I heard the most was a comparison to Batman's free flow combat, and after playing it for myself, I wouldn't say that. Arkham's a borderline rhythm game, all about building up your momentum using timed inputs, and trying to maintain that fast paced action that you created for yourself, plus a mix of gadgets and yeah. I'll cover that some other time. But today, we're taking a look at Sleeping Dogs, which has this weird mix of Wheelman, Max Payne, GTA, and honestly, the hand-to-hand fighting here reminded me of the Warriors more than anything, but taking it a bit further. But yeah, let's get started. This is Combat Overview. In this series, I go over the general controls, to the game's main mechanic or mechanics, who or what we use those tools on, and then seeing how it all comes together. A bit more in depth, but that's what I do. So our main and only way of attacking is with these punches on square, having a 5-hit combo. And holding square would do this forward kick, which is a good way to play footsies with someone, keeping them at bay. And while facing someone, you can still attack all around you, both in neutral and mid combo. Just move the left thumbstick in a direction and attack. Super used to keep those nearby enemies under control. Already it might seem limiting if square is our only way of attacking, but they actually found a way to work with it, and that's by using hold inputs. So after an attack, just press and hold square to access a unique ender. And there's different ones after every hit in our combo, other than the last one. So for example, after that first punch, press and hold square to do this trip. Good to floor people, which keeps them out to fight for a bit. Can even trip multiple people if they're grouped up. Holding square after 2 punches will end with a knee that stuns whoever you hit. It can be upgraded later on to get this follow-up kick. Now the enders after the 3rd and 4th punch seem very similar to me. They're both far-reaching horizontal kicks that can hit multiple enemies, knocking them down. I think the only difference is damage, but either way, still fun moves to use. By pressing circle, you'll grab. From here, you can pummel for quick damage. Holding square will throw them directly down in front of you, and doing a hold after that first punch will break their knee, stunning them for a bit and scarring nearby enemies from what they just saw. You can hold X to drag them where you want. Pressing square will throw them away to keep them out the fight. Can even use this to knock a group down doing a bit of crowd control. Now grabs lead into the game's standout mechanic, so we can slam them against the walls, keeping them floored for a sec. Or can toss them over objects to spread the group out to maintain the space. There's also unique interactables that are very harsh, instantly taking out whoever was unlucky at being grabbed. And some of these are basically fatalities. Alright, so we can sprint with X and we have some follow-ups with this. So while running, pressing square would do this forward kick. And yeah, there's an extra quick follow-up once it's upgraded. Now the cool thing is you can just press X and square at the same time in neutral to do that same jump kick. So you don't have to move away from the fight, just to then run back to use that kick. Now if you press circle instead, we'll tackle someone to the ground. It'll disarm enemies if they have a weapon, and we can upgrade it to do a follow-up punch. We can lock on by holding L2, and this also has 2 follow-ups, one for offense and the other for defense. So while holding L2, press circle to have you run up to the enemy, use him as a step stool to jump off of, and then drop an elbow on him. This stuns and does good amount of damage. And for the defense one, pressing X instead will have you roll over an enemy. Good to reposition around a crowd, preventing yourself from being surrounded. It can even do a follow-up kick, which is good to do a little crowd control, since you'll send them back into that group. Since we're talking about defenses, our main tool for doing that is with this counter on triangle. When enemies become red, that's your cue to counter them. It'll work in all directions no matter which way you're facing, and it'll come out mid-combo too. And you're invulnerable during a successful counter. Now as good as it is, that doesn't mean you can spam it because there's end lag for pressing it too early, leaving you wide open to get hit. So just use it wisely. On our HUD, you'll see your health to the left of our little map. And now this gold meter on the right side is called our face meter. It fills up by getting counters, landing hits, and takedowns. Once full, you'll automatically go into this powered up state that'll slowly drain the meter back to 0. But while it's active, it'll refill your health, and it can be upgraded to get extra buffs like dealing more damage, having higher defense, and armor on your attacks. Just don't get hit too much because they'll eat at your meter quicker. Now I've mentioned it a lot already, so let's look at how our upgrades work. We have 4 skill trees to make our way through, and 3 of them are based on these different mission types, and completing one will fill up its own XP bar. So completing police missions will fill up its own XP bar, for example, and here you'll find stuff to better your gunplay or car chases. Then these triad missions, which are my personal favorite, and that's because doing these will work towards getting more hand-to-hand upgrades, like doing more damage on your base attacks, and having more defense overall. The final mission type are these little favors, They're like side quests where you just help someone out with a little task, and doing these will upgrade our face meter, giving us the damage increase, armor, and so on. The fourth skill tree is how we get all those follow-up attacks. Just need to find these statues throughout the map and bring them back to the dojo to learn a new skill. When it comes to the enemies we fight, we got these guys who will block your attacks pretty consistently, just having you waste your time. So to get around that, once you see them block, on reaction, go for a grab to open them up. But when enemies have melee weapons, you can't be grabbed. They'll just tech it and hit you for free, but they're still opened up by those tackles. These big guy grapplers who will wait around and try to sneak up on you, you can still counter your way out of it if you're fast enough, and if you try to grab them yourself, they'll just reversal it and grab you instead. Now cool thing is, if you go visit the dojo, you can do these little training sessions against each enemy type, giving you some tips on their strengths and weaknesses. And another thing I like that they have are these little side missions having you fight waves of enemies in these arenas where we're pinned up against groups of enemies just duking it out. And that's Sleeping Dogs. It's a pretty cool 3D brawler. Has enough tools to mix things up, which opens itself up for some on-the-fly decision making. Pretty brutal environmental takedowns. We do fight a small pool of 4 enemy types, but they still have you mix up your attacks enough to have you think a bit. All in all, it might seem like a standard deal with this combat, but that's because they kind of have a lot of stuff going on here. Got these car chases where you're either leaping from one to another, or you'll be shoulder checking with your car, having some burnout moments. These shootouts with light use of bullet time, both in and out of vehicles. Brawling against the odds, having to use everything you can to survive. And a story where you're juggling between completing your duty as a cop, but having to do some crazy missions for the triad, which both lead into unique different situations. And all of this just makes this whole game just a constant action movie set piece where you're the one who's actually playing a part of it. Because of that, it makes it this very fun playthrough from beginning to end, and all around just does everything pretty solid. You can see it as a master of none because the focus is spread out, but I say it's still an easy recommend, no question. Plus there's the 2 DLC campaigns where they get creative with it, adding some more playtime. Yeah, if you haven't played Sleeping Dogs yet, like me after all these years, do yourself a favor and check it out when you can.